And welcome to another edition of the Three Man Weave. We're joining you live from Brooklyn. I guess it won't be live when you're watching it, but at the moment, we're live, I promise. We're in Brooklyn. We're in the Barclays Center in one of the corners Jay-Z built, I believe, this office area itself. All jokes aside, but yep, we are at the Barclays Center joining you after IU's victory over Georgia. Hard-fought victory. Didn't necessarily seem like a typical Hoosier game from the outset. Had a somewhat sloppy first half. Trailed by one entering halftime, but
somewhat is not the. You don't need that word there. It was a sloppy first half. Both teams.
Hoosiers shooting, 32% from the floor in the first half.
And Georgia not much better.
Only marginally better at 34.6. You really could tell in the first half the Hoosiers just looked a little off.
Yeah, and whether it was Cody Zeller having a couple early traveling violations, which you really don't see, a couple of people drew a charge on him or two throughout there. You know what? Just an overall down half. But coming out in the second half, Hoosiers turned it around behind Jordan Hall's Christian Watford. But really, I believe the biggest spark, especially in the second half, was Victor Oladipo.
Oh, yeah.
He
had dunk after dunk after dunk.
The first one sparked
that brought the crowd to life. It brought the team to life.
First one sparked, or the first one that I remember that really stuck out was, the Hoosiers were behind 4 points, I believe, 38-34, and sparked an 8-0 run. At that point, I really feel like the Hoosiers pretty much took over the game.
There was just a point there in the second half where it looked like Oladipo, it just clicked. Mm-hmm. It was, I have the ball, I'm going to take it to the basket, and you're not going to stop me. And you know what? That's what Oladipo and a few other guys on the Hoosiers really need to do in certain moments like that. And I thought that Victor did a great job stepping up, and it turned the tide. And then the other guys follow. You have Watford, who finished with 14 points. Jordan Hall's 14 points as well. Just overall, these guys had the ability to change the game.
Yeah. Talking about, Halls, I know Crean said in the post-game press conference that he feels like sometimes he doesn't really come out quite as aggressive as the Hoosiers need him to be. And, you could kind of see that a little bit in the first half. He hit that early three to put the Hoosiers up 3-0 and kind of faded away from him a little bit. He came back in the second half with two huge three-pointers. The Hoosiers were up 45-42, and he came back and knocked down back-to-back threes and really pretty much sealed the game there for IU.
And you know what? Just getting back to also what Jordan Halls did. Jordan Halls has the prettiest stroke in the entire NCAA, especially from three-point range. He just needs to be more aggressive, as you said. Crean has to remind him sometimes to be more aggressive, be that guy.
It gets to the point where if he's out on the three-point line and he's open and there's another guy open, odds are, no matter who it is, it's probably better if Hose takes the shot.
Yeah.
And he's a point guard almost to a fault in that sometimes he forgets that, and he will dish the ball out when really he should keep it and take the shot himself, just because that's what he does better than anything.
I saw a great tweet from Inside the Hall's Justin Albers earlier saying that Yogi Ferrell is going to be the point guard of the future for IU, but Jordan Halls is still the point guard of right now, and I think that really puts it best. When Halls is going, this team is going, and you saw it with those three-pointers that he hit there in the second half, and he also took a big charge. That might get overlooked a little bit, but that fired up the team. Jordan Halls was fired up after that one.
Oh, yeah, and there were a number of times. This is the first time I think I've ever seen what I think was Jordan Halls pissed off. There was one moment midway through the second half where I think he passed it to a teammate who went in for a layup, got fouled, so it seemed. Or I don't remember exactly, but I remember coming away, and this wasn't someone hitting him. This was someone hitting his teammates, and Halls was pissed.
Yeah, and you know what? When he's
right after that, I think he hit 2 3-pointers in the next minute or so.
They showed him once on the jumbotron, and it looked like he had the killer's look in his eye, and that's when he hit those 3-pointers. So you know what? You don't want to make Jordan Halls angry. That's the moral of the story.
A quick aside was right about the jumbotron. That was right around that same moment. There was one moment for it had to be 15 or 20 seconds, and I think it was right during that big run in the second half. Mm-hmm. And they stopped. The jumbotron stopped showing what was on the game, and it showed Derek Elston on the sidelines, and that guy was going nuts. And he clearly wants to be out there, and I think the team wants him to be out there. And I don't know if you guys have anything more to say about tonight's game, because I think this might be a good transition into tomorrow.
Yeah,
because tomorrow, going into this tournament, everyone thought the final was going to be IU versus UCLA, which presents some potential mismatches for IU because UCLA is just huge. I went out and watched a few minutes of that game, and those guys are just giant.
And especially with finding out this week that Shabazz Muhammad was going to be able to come back for tomorrow's game.
Yeah, that game was looking scarier and scarier. Alas, it's not to be. As we discovered moments ago, Georgetown beat them.
Yeah, and
beat them convincingly.
Georgetown, a very solid team not to overlook. Starks out there, I believe he had 23 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a tough matchup for IU, and if the Hoosiers come out playing the way that they did in the first half, like they did today, it's not going to be nearly as close as they were able to keep it with Georgia. That being said, a team that could get through a bad performance like that in the first half. They're only down 1 point at halftime.
Yeah, I was talking to another writer right after the game, and he said, so what did you think? I go, well, yeah, it was definitely closer than I thought it would be, but I think going into a matchup with either team tomorrow, IU is helped a lot more by having a rough outing today than going. I think it's better that this happened than winning by 30 points. Definitely. It's good that Sam Houston State was not tonight going into this matchup with Georgetown, which I still think is a better matchup for IU than UCLA, but at the same time, it's like, well, the reason this matchup is happening is because they beat UCLA, so you got to watch out for them. It'll be a good game.
It's going to be a great game. We're excited to be here for round 2 here at the Barclays Center. Beautiful place. We hope to get as many pictures as we can up on the web. It's been an experience. I'm very excited, and I know you guys are just as much to come back here for round 2 tomorrow night.
IU versus Georgetown will. I'll tell you real quick, the key to the game tomorrow, I think, and we haven't really touched on this at all, tonight was one of the worst performances of Cody Zeller's career.
Yeah, I would agree.
And IU got through it. And that tells you a lot about guys like Oladipo and Halls, who we've already discussed. But I'm going to be – that's, to me, the storyline going into tomorrow is, do we see a bounce-back performance from Cody Zeller? I'm willing to say we do. I'm willing to chalk tonight up. He's been out with the flu for over a week. He's hardly practiced recently, and I think – it's the sort of thing that's catching up with him.
As good as a player as he is, I think last week he was actually more sick than he probably is right now. I know.
But I think this is when he's recovering.
Yeah,
this is when his system is drained.
Yeah. I think I was honestly a little surprised at the performances that he was able to put together last week, knowing how sick he was, and I think things just kind of came to a standstill.
I think tonight was the metaphorical hangover to all of that.
Well, also, a point that should be made, I asked Cody about this after the game, was with that early foul trouble that he gets in. He had 2 fouls, I believe, within the first 8 minutes of the game or so. I asked him if that kind of knocks you out of the flow of the game. And his response was, it can. It definitely can. And he thought that tonight it didn't help. It certainly doesn't help. And when you factor in the fact that he's been sick, the energy level, it was there. You could see that, all the effort, all the things that Zeller does, it was definitely there. It just wasn't as crisp as we're used to seeing.
It wasn't as crisp, and he didn't have the numbers. You could tell the effort was there. It wasn't for lack of effort.
So I think that moving forward into a game like that, if he stays out of the early foul trouble, which, honestly, Cody Zeller might be the best big man I've ever seen in terms of staying out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
In terms of just not getting careless fouls there. He does a great job with that. So if he's able to stay out of foul trouble, gets into the flow of the game, I think we're going to see Cody Zeller back to where we've seen him in the past.
Yeah, I think that's the story going into tomorrow. And I think his performance tonight and looking towards tomorrow sort of epitomizes the idea of, is it better to have a rough game going into a really big game than to go into a big matchup coming off a blowout?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens tomorrow night. It's going to be a great one. You can catch the game on ESPN. Tip-off should be around 10 o'clock, depending on what time the first game. Eastern time.
It's Thanksgiving, so people have sort of scattered about.
Everyone is all over, but we appreciate and we thank you for checking out the IDS for all your Hoosier basketball needs. For Max McCombs, Nathan Brown, I'm Michael Norman. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Take care.
Take care, guys.